Hello and welcome to the Large and Unnecessary First Player Token Podcast. This is episode 95. My name is Chris.
My name is David.
My name is Pawel.
Hi guys.
Hiya.
Hi.
How's everybody doing?
Good.
I'm feeling particularly unnecessary today.
Any particular reason, or just because you're here?
That's my sole reason of being to be here. Honestly, well, not, but yeah. Beautiful day. Beautiful day to be alive and feel unnecessary.
We've had the full extent of the Scottish weather today, actually. It was very nice this morning, very sunny, and then it started raining all of a sudden. Now it's freezing cold.
Yes, and it's been windy from morning till now, and it will continue to be windy till evening, which is also the full extent of Scottish weather.
Wind is a constant here, has to be said.
Yep.
Especially here, where you're near the coast, it's pretty bad.
Yes, our headquarters is actually quite close to the sea. Makes it fun to cycle too.
I do enjoy making you cycle here.
It's okay. It's
How
good
did you get on with mounting your bicycle earlier?
Well, we're not going back to that, are we? The bicycle was all fine and comfortable. It's okay.
You need to choose your words better.
It's English. There's no safe words. This language basically just consists of innuendos. There's nothing else.
Very true. Okay, let's. We're going to do a video games episode this week, but next time we record, it's going to be a board games episode because we've already played a couple of things. The very exciting Azul.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of that, I imagine.
And our copy of Detective turned up. Ooh. So we're going to get that played at some time soon. So yes, we'll get a board games episode out to you next time. But this week it's video games because we have been playing a bit. Well, you guys have, I've not. But we're going to start with Dave.
Yeah.
What have you been playing, Dave?
I've been playing something somewhat detective themed because I've been playing Aviary Attorney.
Yes.
So if you ever see on Steam a game with a weird title, just look for Dave's icon next to it. That's what I do, and it's pretty much like a stamp of Dave's approval.
Oh yeah, you should become one of those Steam curators, Dave. When you get the mark of approval.
An influencer.
Oh god, yeah, it could be. Well, I mean, what can I say? I have good taste in games, and this is a good one, I think. It's a game in the basically patterned after the Ace Attorney Phoenix Wright games, which were on the Game Boy and the DS and what have you. So it's I guess a kind of adventure game, and also a sort of visual novel or story where you take on the role of a lawyer and you're solving or investigating cases and then trying them in court. You're a defense lawyer in this case, just like you are in the Phoenix Wright games.
More importantly, sorry, first question, what's your species?
In this game, you're a falcon. The main character. I'll come to that in a second. I was going to ask,
how is a bird of prey a defense attorney? That makes no sense. Should be prosecutor.
Well, you would think. Remember that question, because I want to come back to that. I was going to ask, does anybody know what Phoenix Wright's name is in the Japanese versions of the games? Because he's not called Phoenix Wright.
No, what is it?
Do you know, Pawel?
I only know that a phoenix is a bird.
It's not a real bird, Pawel.
Yeah, he's not.
Oh, come on! don't be the guy. And
I only found this out recently, but he's called Ryuichi Naruhado. Which
Translate it, Pawel.
the second part, I said it slightly wrong. That's not quite right. But that means I see, doesn't it? He's basically called like Mr. Aha!
I did not know this.
It's like Mr. It becomes clear. Sorry.
Oh, that's brilliant. Oh, we're gonna have to look that up.
And Japanese is such a crazy language.
Yeah, well, now it's so disappointing that we do not have
You're aware that you're a Scot, yes?
Yeah.
Yeah, not only English is like utterly boring for a language, but also Scots added to their own mental dialect or whatever you call it.
Scots just made it more offensive.
Yes, that is very true.
I've played one of the Phoenix Wright games. Got it on the DS actually. I got very stuck in it actually. Very stuck to the point where I couldn't actually proceed anymore.
Well, we'll mention this as well because it is somewhat relevant to this game, Aviary Attorney. But Aviary Attorney is set in 19th century Paris.
Sweet.
And I mean, to people who haven't seen the Phoenix Wright games before, they're like visually these are 2D games with there's like static backgrounds, and the characters are like cutout illustrations basically. So there's very little in the way of animation. Like in Aviary Attorney, they don't move at all. Like I mean, they move side to side, like kind of like cutout puppets, and their mouths are animated, and that's pretty much it. And the art for this game is in a sort of illustration, like woodcuts almost style, so like like you would see in prints in older books. There's no voice acting. It's all just text written on the screen, and you're just choosing options and reading with the little beep, 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 beep noise while
Classic.
while the text comes along the screen. But there is music. It's orchestral in style in this particular game, and some of it a few of the tunes you'll definitely recognise. There's a few familiar ones in there. So yes, as Pawel was saying, in this game all the characters are animals. You play JJ Falcon and defence attorney, and his assistant Sparrowson, he's called, who's a sparrow.
Sparrowson.
The first case you're working towards is you're defending Dame Katerleen de Miao.
Of course.
Who's a cat. Her father's called Pertoir, which I thought was quite cool. And she's been accused of the murder of Monsieur Grenouille, who is a frog, or was a frog, because he's now deceased, unfortunately.
Oh, no.
And it proceeds in the way that people who've played Phoenix Wright will be used to. You go to various locations, you have conversations, you chat with people who are associated with the case in some way. Like you can go and see Katerleen, she's in prison, so you can go and talk to her and she'll tell you her side of the story, and then you can go to the scene of the murder and talk to the people there as well. And then quite often you can investigate the crime scene and areas that are somewhat associated with it, and takes the form of basically clicking on things in a picture, looking for evidence or information or so on. And you have a certain amount of time. In this game, there's a kind of a clock. Each time you go somewhere, that consumes a day. And you have a number of days before the trial is taking place in which you have to gather evidence and information and testimony, I guess, from people. And then it proceeds to the trial itself. You're the defense lawyer, and your role primarily is cross-examination of witnesses being brought by the prosecution, who's a cockerel in this game. And just like in Phoenix Wright, he's like your kind of nemesis and sort of like your peer and your friend, but he's like always kind of had the better of you, and so there's a kind of inferiority thing going on between the two of you, a bit of a rivalry. And the prosecution brings out witnesses and they give testimony, and then you have to try and find inconsistencies in it and present. Sometimes you have to present pieces of your evidence in order to prove or underline these inconsistencies that you found. And if you do that successfully, you will
solve the case.
Win. Yeah, you don't, even in Phoenix, you don't always win. Sometimes it's more a case of not losing, but that's the aim of the game, but it also precedes the story, and this game is very story based, just like Phoenix Wright was. But
it's all visual novel thing, as in you don't really sort of make your choices, but rather just respond to whatever shows up on screen, and sometimes use something from your inventory. Yeah.
Yes, and it's these games tend to be somewhat linear, I guess you could say, somewhat railroaded, if you like. You're always going to find the same kind of things, and you're not really solving anything. You're not really investigating a case, but it gives you the kind. It tries to give the sort of feel of it while you're basically unraveling or playing out a story. The game, this particular game, is quite humorous, and this is a big part of it. And it's very like pun-based humor. There's lots of stuff about winging it. There's lots of words in this game. Great. Talking about tweets. There's all sorts of various just like pun-based jokes. But it's also a very particular kind of knowing humor. It's almost like self-parody at times, but not so much that it's like cheesy. Phoenix Wright was like this as well. It knows it's not a totally serious game, and it kind of plays on that. And they've totally nailed that in this game, and I found it really amusing to play. And there's all sorts of like, I love one of the first clues you find is also a red herring.
Is that a literal red herring?
It's an actual herring.
Yeah. Oh, I thought it might be.
It's one of the things they had for dinner, the meal before Monsieur Grandouille was gutted out in the garden.
Oh my god, that's cannibalism in a game where animals are actual people and they're eating a herring. That's terrible.
Yeah, I know. That's like playing Animal Crossing, where all the characters are animals, but there's also like food as well. And one of the items is a chicken, like a turkey dinner.
Oh god!
And then there's like chickens and things in the game as well. It's a bit weird. But anyway,
that's a bit worrying, actually. What are we teaching our children?
Yeah. But to compare it to Phoenix Wright a little bit further, it is a little different. There's a few things that are interesting about it. You can fail cases. There are four sort of acts in this game, and you don't actually have to succeed in the trials. The game will continue regardless, and what happens slightly adapts itself and refers to your previous performance in the cases. So it's like somewhat slightly non-linear. And Phoenix Wright was definitely not like that, and it was actually quite frustrating. Because you kind of had 3 lives during the trials, and if you got it wrong 3 times, not only would you sort of fail, you would fail the whole thing, and you just have to go back and start from the last checkpoint. This game, you can go back if you want, but this game will allow you to just continue, and I quite liked that. I thought that was quite cool, because it's not really that important that you, and certainly not in the way the story works in this way. And in this game, that you sort of totally nail the case, because there's an overarching story in this game that's actually quite interesting in Aviary Attorney. Because I looked into it a bit more as I was playing it, there's a number of things. It just becomes apparent that there's like a wee bit more to this game, and it's not just like a silly humorous tale, because it's taking place in revolutionary Paris, and it's actually takes place just before a revolution known as the February Revolution, and this becomes part of the story, and that's really what the story is about. It's not really about prosecuting these people or finding out who did murders, and there's like little things in it that are clever, like the prosecutor, your rival, is a cockerel, but he's a cockerel deliberately, because the cockerel is like one of the national symbols of France.
Yeah.
And the chief of police is like a rooster as well. And it's just like wee things that you pick up on. Like the King of France appears, and he's a penguin, but he's like an emperor penguin. And I was like, oh, it's like a sort of little ironic reference. And like the map that you go around is like a contemporary map from the time of Paris. And it turns out that all the art is actually the art of an artist called J.J. Granville, who was alive at that time, and so his illustrations were published during that period, and they've actually lifted it from a book that is now out of copyright, and that's how they're able to do this.
Right.
So the falcon, the sparrow, all the characters, they're all taken from his illustrations, The backgrounds, they're not all from his illustrations, but they're from period illustrations as well. The music is by a French composer called Camille Saint-Saëns. I'm not sure about the pronunciation. But again, he's a composer from the Romantic era. So all the music is like period correct from the time of the game. And the people who are not, the composers, the other composers are all, again, like Debussy and others are all from the same period. So everything like matches up. I mean, it's also a way for them to not pay for like licensing. But this was a very, very small company that made this game. Yeah, it's like there's like a wee bit more to it.
A meta plot.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it's like this amazing, like really deep story.
It's really cool that you found it underneath it, but the question is, do they actually
it's
exploit, or is it just hints?
No, it's not underneath. It's definitely there. It's just not what you would expect.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like a really nuanced take on revolution and the politics of it. It's a humorous Phoenix Wright level. You know, if you imagine Phoenix Wright did a story about this sort of thing, it's about that level of it, and it's got all the humour is there. But there's a little bit of, it's tinged with seriousness here and there, and it's just slightly surprising to find these things in what initially seems like just a silly game with a pun for the title sort of thing, or like a sort of silly name for the title and so on. So yeah, I really liked it. It was by a company called Sketchy Logic. I had a look to see if they've made any other games, but it seems that they haven't. There was a little bit of this was a Kickstarted game. I found out subsequently. And if you go and look in their Kickstarter, it seems like they had a little bit of Kickstarter troubles.
Oh,
okay.
Towards the end. And I mean, you can go and see for yourself if you're interested. But there were a few people who were not terribly happy with the way that the campaign played out. But I think possibly because of that, there's like no sign of them making anything else. And I think that's a great shame, because the writing in this game is very good. And I would have liked to have seen them make more games. Not more aviary attorney games, but more games that are made with this style of writing and in the Phoenix Wright style, but maybe set in other time periods. And I actually quite like this idea of just stealing out of copyright stuff, but using it in a really good way. Well,
you don't steal out of copyright
stuff.
Well, sorry,
yeah, lifting. Yeah, it's by definition it's not stealing, but repurposing. Because you know, if somebody said to me, "Oh yeah, this game just uses like, you know, it's like using the assets that you get with Unity, that are that you don't have to license," but it's actually done really well in this game, and it's a way that you can make a game without having to spend, you know, thousands of dollars for an artist. I mean, they still had the music they still had to do, but they didn't have to compose their own music, and it works really well. So yeah, I'd recommend it. It's not a game. It's definitely it's not a game to play if you want like to be a detective, though. Just to be.
Oh, you're an attorney, yeah.
To make that clear, though, yeah. But it's not an adventure game. It's not a puzzle game. Not really. It's, you know, Chris, you were saying about Phoenix Wright getting stuck.
Yeah.
You won't get stuck in this game.
Right. Okay.
One, because it's a bit more flexible, and two, because the stuff around the evidence, you don't have to think as like laterally and as obscurely as you have to do in Phoenix Wright once you get past the first easy case, because that's what happens in that game. They're like, oh well, you know, it can't just be too easy. You have to come up with you start having to come up with really obscure things, and what that boils down to is just trial and error. And that doesn't really happen in Aviary Attorney, because it's more about the story and less about. So some people might think, oh, it's a bit simple, and that's fine, but story-wise, it's good. I think you'd quite like it, Pawel.
I might just, yes.
It's got multiple endings as well, very visual novel-y. I forgot to mention that.
I tend to like visual novels because obviously story-heavy, but also because I don't know, they just feel different sometimes. Instead of focusing wholly on animation and I don't know, combat mechanics, there's a lot of games that just focus on that and nothing else. Visual novels seem to be, because they focus on something else, they can focus on it a little bit more, I think. I've not played a lot of them, but this one seems like certainly like something I'd enjoy. And this historical aspect does seem rather interesting. I've actually started playing a few visual novels recently, so I might just do that and get back to you.
Yeah, I mean, it would at least help you with your sort of English puns and stuff.
Well,
there's about like 5 different jokes about horses in this game.
Excellent.
Definitely a reason to play it then, yes.
Okay, cool. That does actually sound quite cool. I remember this coming out actually. I remember it appearing on Steam, and I had a look at it. And I did think to myself, this is like the Phoenix Wright games. But like I said, I got really stuck in Phoenix Wright, and it kind of put me off playing it ever again because it was like most of the way through the game, and then it just seemed I couldn't proceed.
Yeah.
And I kind of soured it for me a bit. But one of the things I remember about Phoenix Wright actually, because I played it on the DS, was that during the trials you could press a button to object to things, or you could just shout into the microphone. You could shout objection, and it would just like Phoenix Wright would then go objection. But then it turns out you don't even have to shout objection. You can just scream into the microphone, and it. I thought it was picking up on the words you were saying, but no, just scream. Right, yeah. So that's Aviary Attorney. That came out in the end of 2015 by Sketchy Logic. It is £11 on Steam. Okay, right, I'm going to go next, but I've not really got too much to talk about. Not that I've been playing personally anyway on my own. I have been going back and playing Salt and Sanctuary, which is someone I mentioned. We've talked about a few episodes ago. Pavel, you have played this.
Did you get any further than...
I've got much further through this game.
Oh,
yeah. I reckon I'm probably about 2/3 of the way through it now, in terms of the number of bosses I've killed.
Shit. Okay, well done. Because I've still not gone through the bloody... There's some sort of swamp with these monks. I don't even know if you remember them, but I just can't get through them.
I don't know. Honestly, there's so much stuff in this game. Like, the game is so much bigger than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And I get lost in it. If you don't know what we're talking about here, Salt and Sanctuary is, just to give it this basic description, it's a platform in Dark Souls, basically. That's really all it is.
Yeah.
2D.
So 2D platformer thing. But I stuck with going for my heavy weapons, Pavel, and my heavy armour, despite you trying to talk me out of it. Because you've gone for lightly armoured rolling around a lot, haven't you?
I do roll around and heal, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
So I've stuck with it. I've gone for just Juggernaut style, two-handed massive axes and warhammers and stuff. But I've realised that when you unlock one of the higher level warhammer skills or axe skills or whatever it is, the two-handed thing, you can actually start wielding them one-handed with a shield in the other.
Yes.
But only lower level ones than the level thing you just unlock. So if you get the level 3 Warhammers thing, you can single-hand wield level 2 ones.
Okay, no.
You do have the weight problem in this game is quite a big problem if you're playing the game in that style, if you're playing it with heavy armour, because the rolling, I think if you go over 75% of your equipment load, your rolling just basically becomes useless.
Pretty much same as in Dark Souls. The percentage may have been slightly different, but essentially, instead of rolling, you just make an ass of yourself.
Yeah. Right, well, it's the same in this. You just make an arse of yourself. You roll and then you clunk into the ground and you're very slow to get back up again.
Yeah.
But all I've been doing is basically just trying to unlock all the things in the skill tree that give me extra endurance so that raises my equipment load so that I can just roll about at a reasonable speed now, which is quite fun. But it's a really addictive game, and I find I get lost in it quite a lot. I think there's more shortcuts and stuff like that in this game than there is in like the Souls games. You get these shortcuts that'll take you back to certain areas and things. I've unlocked so many of these shortcuts, I don't know where I am anymore. Like, I'm going into there's so many tunnels and routes I can take and doors that have opened now that I'm just kind of like, well, where does everything go? Like, where do I go now?
For some reason, because it's a 2D platformer, it actually has more freedom to design levels than in your fully developed 3D thing.
Yeah. And the level designs are great.
Yeah.
They are really, really good in this. I mean, this is a really solid game. In fact, I'm enjoying it probably just as much as I love Bloodborne. Because I don't really play much of the actual Souls games other than Demon Souls. I played quite a bit of Demon Souls, the very first one. But I played all the way through Bloodborne, and I think Salt and Sanctuary is just in that same vein. It's a 2D platform, and it is so good and so difficult. And I spent about an hour trying to kill the same boss, like that, and he was just a nightmare. But it's one of these bosses that once you kind of learn his strategy, you can start to get on top of him a bit. But it was the realization that I had that he had a big gun, and you really need to get close to him when he's firing that gun so that you can roll through him.
Right.
That's the strategy that I realised that I was getting wrong, because if he shoots you with that gun, you are fucked.
Right.
It's so fucked. I also stripped all my armour off to fight that boss. I had to take, like, put away my pride of the heavy armour and basically just put on a blacksmith's apron so that I was really, really light, so that I could roll through them quite a lot. But yeah, I mean, the game's great.
Did you figure out all the stuff about faith in this game? There's something about you either following the new gods or the old sort of pagan sort of deity, and you can either unlock certain sanctuaries or have limited options in other sanctuaries.
Yeah, so if you find a sanctuary which is not for your god, and there's a few of them about, you have limited options. You can't put the sort of follower people in them, whatever you want to call them, like the blacksmith and that. You can't choose to put those people in there for your upgrades and stuff. And when you pray at that thing, you still get to save the game there, and you can still level up and stuff. But when you pray there, you restock your potions, but you get less potions if you go to a different altar. But there is a way around it in this game, because you can pick up items that convert the sanctuaries to your god, so that you can then do what you want with it. But I don't know, because it feels like there's story stuff going on in that game, because this game is designed for you to play through it, I think, multiple times. It's because, I mean, there are different achievements and stuff for playing through as different the followers of different gods and things like that.
Right.
So yeah, I get the feeling that this is a game that you can play through several times, and also it feels that playing through as a different class is going to be a different experience for you as well, if you focus on one other thing, because there's something in this game, like there are rings that I've picked up that talk about elemental affinity or something like that, and it's to do with using magic, which is something that me and you haven't done because you took the divine route. You took divine magic.
Indeed, yeah.
You can basically play as like a mage style character in this game as well.
Which is always a bit odd in Souls games.
Yeah, but I want to try it because I want to see what it's all about. Because there's obviously something there that I'm not getting to experience by playing through as this juggernaut, basically. So
You're never a proper mage in the Souls games.
No, you're not.
You're always running around with some sort of weapon, and if you're me, also a shield, even if you're casting magic.
And everybody rolls in Dark Souls. Everyone rolls in Dark Souls.
Oh, that rhymes.
It does.
It's the same with Bloodborne. You just spend all your time rolling about, but
Yeah.
I mean, the trick in Bloodborne is using that pistol.
I don't know.
That pistol is the trick.
Bloodborne doesn't have shields, man. It's just wrong.
The pistol is your shield.
I never used a shield in
But
Dark Souls.
what? No, you can't. You can't even bloody walk into a room in Dark Souls without a shield raised and potentially crapping your pants.
I just used the two-handed sword in Dark Souls. Not always, because you can't use the same weapon for everything. But like,
Is it this Zweihander?
yeah, well, you get it so early, and like half the enemies in the game, if you do the heavy hit, it smashes them into the floor.
Yeah.
And then they get up, and then you smash them into the floor again if they're not already dead, and just keep doing that. So it helps you like clear most of the shitty monsters.
You saw me in Salt and Sanctuary when I was fighting that big ogre thing. I fought him multiple times because I was grinding him for a specific item. And I was just jumping out and I was killing him in 2 hits because of this massive Warhammer thing I've got. Just like, bang, bang, you're dead. And I was saying to Dave that your character, if you tried to do that, Pawel, you'd be there all day trying to fight this guy and rolling through him all the time. But I just smash him into the ground and go, there you go, pal.
Well, it's just like
it's
in
different
Souls.
strategies
In this game, you can wield a shield and a single-handed weapon, or you can grab it with both hands and attack harder, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, you've got options there.
So what you're saying is you've got something even heavier than that, yeah?
No, I've just got, this massive Warhammer.
Alright then.
Oh, by the way, have you tried any of the...
I'll try that.
What was it? Oh, what is it called in the game? It's basically, you go to the alchemist guy in the sanctuary. If you get an alchemist there, you can basically change your weapons into better versions of them.
Oh.
So you should do this, because I realised that this is quite important.
To be fair, I don't think I've even found the alchemist yet.
Well, it's one of the idols that you find, and you put it in the altar,
Yeah.
and the alchemist
Yeah,
turns up.
I mean, that's how
I think
you
it
unlock
is
all
later
the
on in the game,
different types
possibly.
of...
But,
Yeah.
aye. But that's why I
Alright.
was grinding that ogre guy, because I needed an idol thing to level up this particular weapon so that I could wield it one-handed. It was beautiful. But I'm like level 70 now or something in that game. So
7-0.
7-0, yeah.
You've played quite a lot.
Yeah. What level were you roughly?
Maybe
7.
like 50.
Seven,
I think I was 17, possibly.
How much did you play? Because I think when we first talked about it, you'd played a bit more than me.
Do you remember the sort of queen with a lot of blades around her and the first city thing?
Oh yeah.
So I've defeated her, and then once you get past this village, you cross this forest thing, and there's a new type of enemies popping up that sort of look like monks. I don't know. I got beat by them several times. And I'm like, no.
yes. I remember those guys. Yeah, those guys are a pain in the arse.
Yeah,
When you first encounter them, they are really annoying.
So that was me thinking, let's grind up a bit before I go back to them, and then I think I just got into another game and never got back into it. But now that you've reminded me of it,
Did you have some other games to install? Really, I've got. I'd like to play more Salt and Sanctuary, but I've got like a dozen other games that I need to install this evening.
And not play.
It's yeah. There's a lot of shuffling on my desktop.
Anyway, Salt and Sanctuary is a great Soul-style platformer game if you're into that kind of thing. So pick it up because I'm really enjoying playing through it. Even if it has made... It's the first game in a long time that made me rage quit because of that boss that I couldn't kill.
Alright.
But of course it was the usual thing of when I went back in to fight him, I killed him first time. So, there you go. The other thing that I did and you guys saw me, just as you came in...
It was a delight to behold.
I finally turned on the remastered version of Shenmue on the PS4. So, me and Euan have been playing through Shenmue 1 and 2 on the Dreamcast. I'm sure I mentioned this a few episodes ago as well, and we will continue to do that in the Dreamcast for the authentic feel, but the remastered version of the PS4, it's basically the same.
I don't really see a difference apart from the fact that you can use your...
They've updated the graphics a bit. You can now play it in 16:9 ratio rather than the 4:3 it's in the Dreamcast. And yeah, the graphics have been updated a bit. But other than that, the controls are pretty much the same. Everything else about it, it's not really changed. It's the same. Obviously, it's the same story and everything. So, but it's fun to just have it on the PS4 and be able to turn it on without having to go to all the rigmarole of hooking up the Dreamcast and actually it doesn't hook up to that TV. So I'll have to get the other TV out that's in another room in the flat.
Quite
set
hassle.
that up. It is a hassle setting that up. But like I say, I'm still going to insist that Euan plays through Shenmue 2 authentically.
The vanilla experience, absolutely.
But it's good, yeah. I mean, it's the best thing about the remastered thing is the loading screens are now a millisecond long compared to what they were in the Dreamcast, where you'd sit there and go, I'm going to go make a cup of tea while it loads the next area.
I should also imagine that being able to move with your joystick as opposed to directional pad is quite an improvement. Yeah?
Yes, that is an improvement.
Yeah.
Definitely an improvement. Especially when you play the arcades.
Now that I've seen you do it, having Japanese voices
Yes.
and English subtitles in the first game is something I was really looking forward to. I didn't actually know that this remaster would have it, so now I already have it on my PS4. It's just waiting for me. Now it's just another reason to play it. And
He installed it, Dave.
Yep.
He downloaded and installed it, but he's not played it yet.
I'm not the only one that does that. Everybody
To
does.
be fair, my Steam library is a nightmare when it comes to unplayed games, so probably I shouldn't say anything.
Half of my PC screen is just shortcuts for Steam games.
Yeah, I had to put all those in the recycling bin because it was just a mess. I was like, I'm not even looking at these icons when I load the computer up, so why am I even bothering? Anyway, so yeah, Shenmue. I mean, if you haven't experienced Shenmue, then I recommend that you do, because it's just such a classic game. Classic game.
Oh, it's
And Shenmue 3 next year, I believe. 2019 is what they're
they've
saying.
been
So.
saying this for the past couple of years.
Yeah.
So.
Well, here we go. Can't wait.
I've stopped even checking those Kickstarter updates because they're essentially all about the same thing.
They don't really say very much, those Kickstarter updates. It's generally like what games convention Yu Suzuki's been to this week. Like that's basically all it is these days.
Yeah.
So. Anyway, the other thing that we played, me and you, Dave, we played We Were Here.
We did.
Which is free on Steam right now, and you should pick it up if you've got a friend to play with.
You do need a friend.
You do need a friend to play this game.
Although, admittedly, you could play with a random person on the internet.
Yeah, you can.
I have seen games sitting in the game
lobby.
Browser with someone waiting. That would be a very unusual experience.
Oh, I should try it.
I'm intrigued now.
Okay, well, We Were Here is a puzzle game.
Yes.
And it is a completely cooperative puzzle game, but not in a way that you're probably thinking. You're not looking at the same things. The idea is that you're just a couple of explorer people who have come across some building out in is it a snowy wasteland or something like that. There's some weird story going on there. It's not explained. Don't worry about it. And you go inside.
It's a castle.
And some guy knocks you out. Yeah, it's some castle thing. Some guy knocks you out. You don't know what this creature is supposed to be, but then the two of you wake up in different rooms. So it's a fully 3D game, so you're playing this in first person. But you wake up and there's just a bunch of stuff in your room, and your partner isn't there. And one of the first things you find, which turns out to be pretty much fucking useless, is a walkie-talkie.
Yeah, because you can't hear each other to begin with. You're on your own. But
you're on your own, so the first thing you have to do is find the walkie-talkie and realise that, you can communicate. So you need a microphone, you need some sort of microphone to play this game.
Yes, for sure.
So a headset would be preferable. But you can use this walkie-talkie to communicate with each other. Now, me and Dave gave up on this idea pretty quickly.
This was probably the most difficult puzzle we faced in the game. Was getting the freaking walkie-talkie to being able to communicate. We did spend a good half an hour of, can you hear me?
Yeah.
And they'd be like, yeah. And then silence.
Yeah,
like nothing for like 5 minutes. And they'd be like, wonder what's happening. And then Chris would be like, can you hear me? And I'd be like, yeah, I can hear you. And then I'd say something. I'd say something and I'd get no response from Chris.
Can I just say that as a person that works in IT support and has assisted numerous, countless bloody conference calls, that really just sounds like every bloody day on Skype.
Yeah, because it works like a two-way radio.
Yeah.
And that when you're pushing, it's push to talk to use it. So when you're pushing to talk, you can't hear what the other person is saying.
Okay.
But I think there's something more going on than that.
So it's possible that you guys were just not pushing the button that would sort of unpush whatever walkie-talkie would normally have.
No, because you push the button in to talk, and the walkie-talkie comes into the screen like you're bringing it up to your face.
Uh-huh.
And then when you let go of it, it goes away.
Yeah.
But maybe you're still holding the button.
No, not.
Well, you know what? We never really quite figured out why we were having...
We got really frustrated.
Eventually we were like, right, we're going out of Discord. But we were slightly concerned that we would break...
that's cheating, man.
Well, I know, and we didn't want to...
We debated this for a while by text.
Because we were like, well, what if there's a puzzle where it relies on not being able to talk to each other for parts of the puzzle?
Yeah,
and we didn't know. But it was so frustrating, and I'm glad we did.
I couldn't, having played through the entire game though, I couldn't see any part of that game that would have relied on us not being able to hear each other.
No, I don't think so.
So I think
it was actually just an
I think
annoyance.
the game might have been a bit buggy when it comes to the walkie-talkies.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so we went on the Discord and just chatted to each other on that instead because it was so much easier. No more push to talk. But one person, when you start the game, one person is the librarian character, and the other person is the explorer character. And this basically dictates which rooms you will start in. And the librarian has much more of a... they're trying to work things out, basically, like symbols and, little riddles and stuff like that. And the explorer is the person that's running about doing all the pulling the switches and, looking at running around the levels basically and describing what they see so that the librarian can then work out what to do.
Alright, this sort of stuff.
Yes. So you have sort of defined roles in the game, and it's interesting the way that they've set it up. I really enjoyed the experience of it. I played as a librarian, Dave was the explorer. Dave thinks that I got the short straw because I was basically stuck in pretty much the same room for the entire game, whereas Dave was getting to run around in this castle, like looking at things and
Yeah, I went to
seen all this interesting
sorts
stuff.
of different places.
But
in a way, I think that from what you guys are describing, Dave had a much more traditional gameplay experience, whereas the librarian actually sounds like a...
Sort of, but you're both doing kind of the same thing, because whenever you get to like a room, so basically a new puzzle, you do the same things. So I would say to Chris, well, here's what I can see, and then quite often he would be telling me what he could see as well.
In some sort of books or something.
Yeah, I mean, it did skew slightly towards me describing what I could see, and then Chris
and then me trying to figure out which
matching
part of this library I had to go to figure out how I tell Dave how to get through this puzzle.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay.
But it's hard to describe what actually happens in the game without spoiling it.
Yeah.
But
It's not
all
long.
we'll say is that the library part of the game, so the bit that I was playing in, never changes. Okay? So if you start a new game, it's always the same. The part that the explorer's in, that seems to change for some parts of it anyway. So that it's not the same solution every time. Okay? For the puzzles. So that the librarian has to actually look at things and then say, okay, this is what it is. And some of it is like trying to explain. So like if I have to say to Dave, you have to find these symbols, but there'll be very, very similar symbols to the ones that I'm trying to describe. So you have to be very specific about which symbol he has to find, and you have to describe it. So like, there was one that's like a lightning bolt symbol, but there's a sort of lightning bolt symbol that also has little tails on it. So you have to say, right, press the lightning bolt symbol, but not that one. The one with the one with the little tails on it. Like, so you have to be very specific about what you're saying. So the game just revolves around communication. That's what it is. It's how well you can communicate to your partner. What you need them to do, or what they're seeing, or whatever. And it was really interesting. It didn't take a long time to play through. Well, we've maybe played through a couple of hours with a few failures in some of the puzzles.
Yeah, and it did. Yeah, it crashed a couple of times.
It crashed a couple of times. It kicked Dave out like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
But there are sort of checkpoints in the game, so you can restart at a certain part of the game. And we kept on failing at the very end and having to go back and do one puzzle before you get back into the end room, sort of thing, which has a terrifying puppet in it. Absolutely terrifying. Yeah.
All puppets are terrifying.
That puppet killed me so many times.
The thing is, I've never seen this puppet. I've only heard about it.
Oh man, it's terrifying.
But you were a librarian, so you were in the library all the time.
No, but at the end of the game, you move through a new room.
Okay.
And
with a puppet.
Things kind of change for me in there. A wee bit. I mean, I'm still sort of doing the librarian's job.
Yeah, that puzzle was maybe slightly less library-ish than the other ones.
And you get to once you sort of finish the game, you get to that sort of end room, and that's that's when you can finally see each other. But then it's got this really obvious bit in it where it's just kind of like, you'll see if you play the game, you'll see what it is. But
it's a bit silly.
It's something silly. And as soon as I saw this, I thought, I know what's going to happen here. So there's something that's slightly depressing, but we'll just say that I volunteered myself for this bit. I volunteered myself.
I did like it.
You have to make a choice.
I don't like the sound of that. What did you do?
The puzzles are cool in this
The puzzles
game.
are cool.
I like them. They reminded me... well, they're a little bit like the Crystal Maze, but what they actually some puzzles that are in the Crystal Maze, but what actually reminded me of is a much older television program called The Adventure Game that was on when I was a kid, that was a sort of precursor to...
I don't remember this.
No, it was a long time ago, so I was very young when this was on. And they used to have celebrities like newsreaders and comedians, and they'd come on, and they did have to wear like coloured clothes, I think, like jumpsuits or something. Right. And it was really low budget, and they weren't doing the same style of communication based puzzles, but it was similar kind of things with weird symbols and codes and having to figure little things out like that. So yeah, and I just the sort of aesthetic of it, just the slightly weirdness of some of the things and then you have to describe these things. Like there was at one point there was a dog that had like a candlestick as part of its head,
And we were here, yeah.
Yes, and we were here, and Chris never got to see it. I don't think.
I never got to see it.
Yeah, I was just pissing myself laughing.
I know you were. I was just like, Dave, why is this so funny? I'm just standing in the library going, come on.
It's like, you have to see this, doc.
There were quite a few like weird pictures in that game, actually.
Yeah,
There is one,
yeah.
the one thing that the librarian gets to see is the picture gallery room, which has just got all these weird animals on that, like, it's one of these things where only one of the animals is relevant, and Dave has to describe which one he can see so I can find the relevant one. But some of them were just hilarious. Birds with snail shells and stuff. Absolutely weird.
There were a few moments of mild peril that were quite exciting. So I
we were here.
Yeah,
It's a short game. It's cooperative, and it's different.
It is.
I actually really enjoyed the experience of it.
Yes, they should. This is an underutilized genre, I think, because there's a lot more you could do with these.
Definitely.
These kind of games, and like we never saw each other, but you could totally have puzzles where, for this one, you were like, I can see you, like you're over there, and then that would open up different avenues for that puzzle. There's a lot that could be done with this, I think. And it has it has a sequel called We Were Here 2, I think.
TOO.
Yes.
We Were Here too.
And there's another one coming out, which is is that We Were Here as well? Or
No, it's called...
We Were Here also.
No, it's...
What is it?
It's We Were Here... hang on. It's called We Were Here Together.
Oh, right. Yes.
And I don't know. I don't know if that name implies more than two people to me, but
It's possible.
it's possible. It is possible. So I don't know. But if it is, then Pawel, we need to get you involved in this. You'd be a terrible librarian.
I'm sure I'd have good fun misdirecting you guys. Yeah, but no puppets. I don't do puppets, man. Yeah, but I had a look, and it looks reasonably fun.
Oh no, it seems that We Were Here Together still only 2-player, but okay, well they'll stick with that. Stick with the formula.
Fair enough.
But yeah, We Were Here, good fun. Enjoyed it for a short game, and it's free. We have to reiterate, it is free on Steam, so it is worth just picking it up and playing it. And that is by Total Mayhem Games, and it came out in 2017 last year. Right, Pawel.
Hello.
We're gonna do a rare bit of AAA titles here, aren't we?
Well, we ought to from time to time.
So we'll just stick it on the end of the episode. And,
yeah. Let's just throw it. Yeah. Why not? So we occasionally play AAA games, but only if it's not Dave. They does not play AAA because they're bad.
Did you not hear his review of God of War last week?
Except when I do.
I'm pretty sure it was very succinct, if I remember.
Well, I'm sure that Dave would quite enjoy bits of Tomb Raider, the Shadow of the Tomb Raider. This one's called, but only if he ever enjoyed any other Tomb Raiders or Uncharted games, which I don't think he did. Could we do instead a review of Dave's enjoyment of such games?
If that's the angle you want to take.
Yeah. So you know how Dave likes his games, yeah. When he gets
well, objection.
No, you have to shout that.
Sorry. Objection.
There you go.
Dave doesn't like games.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, that's actually true. Yes, sustained. Yeah. So you know what Dave hates in games.
I like him to put Dave on trial. This is great.
So what Dave hates in games is I suppose in a way the commercial aspect of it, the formulaic repetitive stuff that you can sort of see through, and this cinematic sort of illusion that you're supposed to consume, which Dave thinks is just too low for his particular palate. Yeah. So, yeah, that's Tomb Raider as well.
That's not what I think.
What?
I just don't like games that are shit. And the first Tomb Raider reboot was one of those. And I don't care how much people enjoyed it.
There you go.
Because they're all wrong.
I mean, yes.
It's okay, you can enjoy it, that's fine. Still a terrible game, though.
We should...
I mean, we established this when Pawel attempted to talk about Uncharted 4.
4, yes.
Which basically I hijacked to talk about how much I really didn't like the first Tomb Raider reboot.
Yes.
Oh, I remember this. That was a few episodes ago.
So here I am to say that Shadow of the Tomb Raider is the third game in this particular, let's call it, trilogy. And it's probably the weakest of the three.
That can't possibly be true.
Because the first one was by far the best.
What is wrong with people? Everyone is loving this game, right? This one that's come out. I mean, it's not... I know it's got like mixed reviews on Steam, but that's normal because that happens for every... Like, whenever the Assassin's Creeds come out, they all get mixed reviews on Steam and what have you. But I've heard loads of people say that they really love this game.
The third one?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm here to say that there's...
Well, what's worse? What could be worse about it?
But you have to, in order for you to comprehend what's bad about it, from my perspective, you have to at least accept the premise that Tomb Raider is a good... Let's assume that a Tomb Raider is actually a solid experience gameplay-wise and story-wise. Are you... Just so that we can
it is a game.
Begin our journey from there.
It is a game in the sense that it works and it's like you can play through it and it has things like you can unlock things,
chests and stuff,
and you can platform to places and pick up stuff.
Right, so
and kill animals.
I suppose one of the reasons why people enjoy Tomb Raider, the remake, so the game from was it 2013? I think
was it that long ago?
It was a good couple.
It was a while ago. I didn't play it when it came out.
2013 was when the Tomb Raider the remake and the first part of this trilogy was released. And I think one of the biggest parts of the appeal was the fact that it was so much different from the classic Tomb Raider premise, I suppose, the way it controlled and the way what the games were about, sort of. Now, I'm not entirely sure. I'm pretty sure that by the time Tomb Raider got released, Uncharted was already somewhere there, so you could clearly see that the newer Tomb Raider, sort of the recipe for it, borrows from Uncharted quite a lot. And ever since then, those two franchises went sort of hand in hand and kept learning from each other and kept sort of getting similar. So there was a bit of a competition between the two, and you could sort of still see it. Now I've really enjoyed the first game. The second one was just as good, but maybe not as fresh anymore. And as far as story goes, it sort of felt a little bit. There wasn't much. Whereas in the first one, at least there was, a story. As much as adventure games of this kind go, there was a story. And Lara,
there was definitely a story. I remember.
And Lara was was quite invested in it. And the second one, maybe not so much. The third one takes place in mostly Latin, South America, I should say, really, and revolves around various imagined Aztec and Mayan sort of civilization bits, yeah. And it's exactly what you imagine from all those games. So there's platforming, there's running around, there's climbing stuff, shooting your bow, because that's what the new Lara does quite a lot. But I must say that
the murdering.
Is there?
How many people have you killed in this game?
Not that many.
Really?
I regret to say.
I killed thousands of people in the first game.
Yes, and it was quite fun.
It was repetitive.
It was, but that's what I missed. This is what I'm actually here to rant about the Shadow.
It's not murdery enough.
Raider. Yeah.
Well, people will be disappointed by that because they loved the murdering.
Well, that's the thing, and
yeah, people are bastards.
Well, so they are, yes. And you know what? Another thing that I'm here to rant about is that in this game, Lara is a bastard too. Like, you're down to one companion, because you used to, like, in Tomb Raider remake, you had, 5 different NPCs you sort of had a companion.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I would have killed all of them, right enough. That much I can understand.
So there's only one left.
I had to be
of
like, if
them.
I was Lara Croft,
So-
they'd be like, "Oh, Lara, you have to help fix this boat so we can all leave." I'd be like, "No, you guys are fucked. I'm off. You're all dicks."
So are we assuming that she's killed all the other companions, Pavel?
Well, no, but she may have
Did she-
discouraged them from accompanying her.
Okay.
Simply because you have this guy Jonah still with you, and he sort of cares for you, but every single time he's distressed or I don't know, needs some maybe backslapping, Lara's like, "Oh, but my parents," and she just starts reminiscing about her own problems and doesn't really give a shit about him. I'm like, am I supposed to, care for Lara as a character at this stage? It's a strange thing because of this franchise's, I suppose, rivalry with Uncharted, especially when you play this newest Shadow of the Tomb Raider, you cannot stop by just comparing it with Uncharted, and you realize that Uncharted is really a much more cinematic experience, really, than it's less of a game. Uncharted
Story-wise,
yes. But the characters in Uncharted have a lot of history and a lot of chemistry, whereas Lara has none, and especially in this game. And then you get to the moment when I got like just disenchanted was when you get to see Lara's childhood, because when you play Uncharted, you see Nathan Drake's childhood a few times, and he was this orphan, this young thief in various exotic locations. It was all very cool. And then you play Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and you get this snotty little brat just running around her father's castle and I don't know, complaining and wrecking stuff that I'm sure taxpayers paid for. Or something. And you know what? And I keep thinking, my goodness. And she keeps narrating her adventures. I'm like, no, stop. I can't stand it. Privileged little princess. Jesus. So yeah. But then, as soon as you realize, you know what this game is really trying to do narration-wise is it's trying to be Uncharted, but it cannot copy the chemistry they had in Uncharted, so it's just failing because of it. And then you start seeing all the other tiny bits that I remember actually annoyed me in the previous games, but I was able to maybe not really pay attention to them, like all the death scenes that I really dislike. In Uncharted or other games of this kind, if you die, you just get your black screen or maybe a little bit of a ragdoll. In Tomb Raider, you're treated to fully animated impalement, beheadings, crushings, and a lot of screaming and shrieking and yelling. It's just not the need for it. And because it's a trial and error game, because the formula is there, you're always, if you misjump, you just die and you have to go back to your save point. It's always been like this. We're all used to it. But I don't really want to keep watching Lara getting impaled by various trees all the time because of it. But also, and that's something that really annoyed me before, and I sort of didn't really care that much about it, but now that I get to rant about Tomb Raider, I might as well rant about this. For some reason, the developers of this franchise thought that to introduce replayability is essentially to make you crawl through various locales that you cannot access just yet. You will have to come back here when you have more equipment. Which is, I suppose, okay from time to time. I see when I played Deus Ex and I knew that I cannot hack into something, there was always, if you were crafty enough, other ways to get into places. And you didn't have to wait so much. Whereas in here, every single bloody step I take, there is always some piece of equipment I don't have. And I'm a completionist. If I'm in a given area, I quite like to just look into every nook and cranny and just to see the message, you can't. And once you've played a couple hours in the game, you'll start finding, I don't know, maps that show you various secrets, which is fair enough, that's brilliant. So you start, I don't know, climbing a particularly difficult route and spending 5 or 10 minutes to finally reach this bloody ledge or somewhere just to get an another message saying that no, you'll need some sort of dynamite. I'm like, no, I'm gonna have to actually do all of this again simply because I've decided that maybe this secret is worth picking up now. And apart from that, although I've not finished the game yet, it does seem much shorter than the previous ones, and there is scarcely any combat in it. For some reason, this combat in this game is fully stealth-based, or appears to be designed to be stealth-based. You're just leaning against walls, and you're supposed to be stealth-killing people. But you know what? Once shooting starts, it just ends not a minute later, and there is nothing else. It's dead easy, and there is... I've played, I think 3 hours or 4 hours, and I've had maybe 2 fights. And that's just rubbish. I must say I'm quite disappointed.
Aww.
And I can see how much you feel for me, Dave. That's...
I don't know, it sounds like I might prefer this one.
Are you just like contradicting me, man?
There's like less combat in it. It was like, well, that sounds good. And it's like fewer annoying companions. And I was like, excellent. I hated my companions in the first game. Do you know how many companions you had in the very first Tomb Raider?
Well, that's the thing.
None.
Lara was always a loner, and I.
Do you know how many people she kills? Like 2 or something in the whole game, and a monster at the end.
And some dogs, I believe. She not kill a lot of dogs.
Well, there is that. She does kill an awful lot of animals.
Yep. Especially bats. Have you ever seen bats? They absolutely...
Yeah, well, it was a long time ago.
Well, so was it okay to kill bats before?
Well, back then it was like it was that or nothing. So, but yeah, it's interesting. The Metroid-y style areas. That's an unexpected addition to a game of this type. I would have thought. What you're talking about is the thing of like getting to somewhere and finding, oh, I can't go any further because I don't have the doodad that I need, is a problem that plagues a lot of games that have this issue.
Some games will do it better, some games will do it worse.
But God of War has this as well, and you can have the same sort of thing happen in that game, and it doesn't do a perfect job either of letting you know that you just can't get that chest. See that chest over there that you're wondering how you can get it? You can't get it right now. So you're like, why have I wasted 10 minutes? And it's like, well...
Yeah, I really dislike that.
I know in like Batman Arkham Asylum had it as well. I mean,
if you don't have a piece of equipment.
Yeah, and it's an amazing game, but I remember playing Arkham Asylum at the start and I could see a thing in my bat vision. And I'd only just started the game, so I didn't know that I was going to have the special spray that I can spray the explosive onto the wall. So I spent ages like trying to get, like, I was like, I can't get through it, can I get around it? There's not that many games that do a good job of letting you know that you can't go here now.
Did you, that bat spray thing, did you actually unlock it with points, or was it unlocked by a story?
I can't remember.
Because to me, this is actually, it might be a bit of a pet peeve, but to me, it's if I get to unlock certain skills that let me, for example, do this, because it's my own choice, like in Deus Ex, I tend to put every single thing I have into hacking straight away, and it actually, I get to do a lot of stuff that others might not necessarily be able to do in the same way. I like this sort of freedom.
Deus Ex is a different system, though. That's not the Metroidvania style system. And typically in these games, it's unlocked through the story because it controls your progression through the game, and it allows you to reuse areas as well, which can be good if it's done well. So it's actually quite rare to be able to buy the items that you need to progress because it kind of breaks the system. I mean, sometimes like Hollow Knight, there's like a couple of things that you can buy, but they're not, they're taking you to areas that are not on the critical path of the game. So yeah, it's a slightly unexpected, for me anyway, thing to put into a game like Tomb Raider. Is it something people, do you think? I mean, people love these games, and maybe they were just saying like, I want to play it more and I want to spend more time. They're not that short by standards of these games. People. If it's 30 hours, that's a long game.
I got to platinum in Rise of Tomb Raider, which essentially means I picked up every single bloody thing, and that meant going through to the point of no return and then going back and picking everything up. But I do remember although it annoyed me less in Rise of Tomb Raider, I do remember stumbling upon a lot of moments when I just didn't have the right type of arrow, or I didn't have my pickaxe wasn't sturdy enough yet. And in this game, it's just there again, and I sort of would have probably tolerated it if not for the fact that I've realized that Lara is not a nice person.
She's a posh psychopath.
I could have told you.
Yes, that she is. And the game would probably benefit from not trying to actually build a narration based on relationships, because it's just not working. And there being precious little combat in the game. I mean, yeah.
How's the actual tomb raiding bit, though?
Well, the meat of the game is going through various areas and crafting stuff, which is alright-ish.
Yeah, that's not too
But
bad.
that's the new franchise Tomb Raider thing. But the actual highlights are always the tombs themselves,
Yes.
which is an area where there's always no combat. You know that. If you reach a tomb, you know that you're in for a puzzle and nothing else.
Yeah, because they added more into... Because the first one didn't really have a lot.
Yeah.
So they put more in the second one, I believe, although I
Yeah,
haven't
yeah,
played it, but
yeah.
I think people were happier with that.
Yeah,
So
and
how's-
tombs in Rise of were quite good. Tombs in the newest one, I've seen a couple so far, and they're pretty good. But I must say, as much as it pains me to do it, that you get your pre-order bonuses, you get your DLC it's all the entire appeal of the commercial aspect of how to sell this game is based on tombs now. You get more tombs if you pre-order. You get more tombs with season pass. If you were to buy a vanilla naked version of this game, you would probably have half the tombs you can have otherwise.
That's awful.
That is. This is one of the. I had a sore feeling on my bloody tongue when I was picking this game up, and this might also have biased me when I started playing it. Because tombs is why
really
people pick it
annoys
up.
me. That really annoys me.
Yeah.
Because that's basically telling you, like, if you can't afford this, like, to get these extra tombs. So if you're on a low-paying job and you can't afford to pay that much money for this thing, you're only going to get half the experience that other people are going to get.
In the development process, we've made this much, so we're going to give you 70% just now unless you buy us more, and this is capitalism for you, yeah? But see, Lara is a heiress of this castle.
Yeah, it's a metaphor for Lara, isn't it?
Exactly.
If you're as rich as Lara, you can get the full experience.
Precisely. The socialist in me thought, I'm not playing that.
But you did anyway.
Well, to be fair, I've not even... I've
keep-
not played much, but I feel like I've already passed half of it anyway. It doesn't feel like a big game. So, yeah, I mean... Bad form.
Oh.
So overall, you're not that impressed?
Well, ever
so
since
far.
I've just played Destiny again and stuff like that.
Oh, right, okay. So you've reinstalled you've installed all these new games and you're just gone back to playing Destiny.
Destiny is one of those games that I just keep returning to. I might actually review it a bit again.
To be fair, that's just like me in 7 Days to Die.
Yeah.
Got all these games to play that I've never played before. I'll just play 7 Days to Die instead.
Yeah. We're all guilty of that.
Right, well, thank you very much, Pawel. So that is Shadow of the Tomb Raider,
That's what it is. It's a shadow of its former self.
and that's just come out quite recently. Past couple of weeks, isn't it?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you very much.
AAA.
Triple A, but not from you. Right, well that's it for this episode, so we'll need to give out all our internet stuff. If you want to email us, you can do so at firstplayertoken@gmail.com. That's FIRST, player token. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, SoundCloud, iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube. We have a PSN community. Those are all First Player Token, large and unnecessary First Player Token. You'll find us, but the Twitter is at 1ST Player Token.
That's once player token
Thank you very much, Dave.
with a 1
With a 1.
ST. No,
that's right.
Just one ST.
1.
ST.
ST.
What's a Stitcher?
Stitcher is a place where you can download podcasts. But thanks for asking, Pawel, because people might not know that.
Yes.
We have a Discord. It's discord.me/firstplayertoken. We have a Twitch, which again is 1ST Player Token. And we are part of the Podnose Network.
The UK's leading entertainment podcast network.
That's the one, Dave. Well done. And I'm sure we'll get an update on the news from Podnose the next time that
From Podnose Euan.
from Podnose Euan. Euan's on the show. We'll get an update from him because he is the Podnose guy.
Oh, do we all have titles?
Well, yeah, you're Pawel.
Oh God, not not the candy bar again.
Okay, so that's it for the video games episode. We're not sure if there's going to be an episode next week, but if not, it will be out the week after. We may have to take a small break, but we're not stopping yet. We're still
Yeah, just blame Chris on it.
we're still trampling through to episode 100, so we'll get there. But until then, thanks for listening.
Bye.
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 Bye in this episode.
Say bye, Euan.
Bye.